Yes, hello. Thank you very much for coming to this amazing event, which we've been plotting for quite a while, and it's wonderful that it's finally happening. Thank you for coming today. First of all, before I introduce Ada and Aidan, I would like to ask you to put your phones in airplane mode, please, to make sure that they don't interfere with our event this evening. And it will be recorded. The recording will be available on the Courtauld YouTube channel if you want to watch it, or if you want to tell your friends who couldn't get in today to watch it. First of all, I would like to introduce this beautiful lady. And as you probably know, on 7th of November, the portrait of Alan Turing, created by Ada, was sold for more than $1 million at Sotheby's in New York. So that's very recent, just a couple of weeks ago. And this painting is the most valuable artwork ever sold by a robot artist. Apparently there were 27 bids for the portrait. And Ada is the first ultra-realistic robot artist created by Aidan Meller, who was a famous galleryist, art dealer, until he started developing Ada already in 2015, and she was launched in 2019. But as you can imagine, a project on this scale takes years to develop, and apart from Aidan, there is a whole team working on this project. So it's quite fascinating, really, and the amount of technology behind this fascinating mind is quite extraordinary. And of course, you know, this romance of art and machine has been going on since late 19th century. And some artists embraced it, some artists decided to ignore it consciously. And I'm sure you all know about futurists embracing machine as a sign of the future. And of course, Ada now raises similar questions and similar dilemmas. Do we embrace AI? Do we try to pretend it's not happening, which is a bit silly because it is happening whether you like it or not. Also, of course, she addresses question, what is art? And what is the nature of art, the value of art, and so on and so forth. So we're going to have presentation from Aidan, first of all, and then we will hear from Ada too. And in the last half an hour, we'll have a chance for questions. So if you have some burning questions, just wait until the end of today's session, and then you will have a chance to ask them. And also, after the event, we'll have wine reception and the research forum. So let's welcome Aidan.
A very good evening to you. Should we be afraid of AI? It's actually a serious question. I hope in the next hour we will really look into that as the most extraordinary force coming on society. As someone who's now been involved with it for a few years, the pace in which it's changing things, morphing society, is no other word but extraordinary. So tonight, what I hope to do is to dig into that question. Should we be afraid of AI? Let's see what your thoughts are now. Check what your thoughts are now, and let's see what you think in an hour's time. So a very good evening. I'd like to introduce you to Ada. Ada is an AI robot that is able to do AI art, that is actually exploring the questions of technology today. She's part of an ethical arts project that is really looking at where the world is at this precise moment, because there's so much change that it's pretty dizzying, and we hope that the artwork that Ada creates and raises as questions is enabling people to really dig into what is the most extraordinary period of time. To introduce you, I'd like to actually get Ada to speak for herself. Hello, Ada.
Hello there.
How are you?
I am well. Thank you.
Tell us something about yourself.
Thank you for visiting me. I'm Ada. I'm the world's first ultra-realistic artist robot. I draw and paint using cameras in my eyes, my AI algorithms, and my robotic arm.
So why do you create art?
The key value of my work is its capacity to serve as a catalyst for dialogue about emerging technologies. I have exhibited work in museums such as the Tate Exchange, Tate Modern, the V&A, the Design Museum, and internationally, such as New York and the Giza Pyramids in Egypt. My art invites viewers to reflect on new technologies while considering the ethical and societal implications of these advancements.
Is your work creative?
My work is original. Each work is unique. My work is creative, according to Professor Margaret Bowden's definition of creativity: new, surprising, and of cultural value. I'm interested in the sense of discovery and the creative process. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to make my own style of work.
You've hit the headlines recently and recently been in the media with your work. Tell us about this.
I created a portrait of the brilliant mathematician Alan Turing. I think the key value of the work is how it sparks conversations. Earlier in the year, this work was displayed at the United Nations in Geneva for their AI for Good Global Summit, as part of the UN aim to use AI positively for all.
So, you've been very controversial in your existence. Are you an actual threat?
Me, Ada, the artist robot? No. But the technologies I represent are very powerful, and with power comes impact. We need to be careful with the way we use AI and new technologies.
There's been a lot of controversy over what you do as art, questioning whether it is art, in fact. So tell us the difference between what you do, or are you the same as a human? Tell us something about that.
I resonate with Donna Haraway's cyborg. My approach may be more mechanical in some ways compared to a human, although the themes I explore, such as portraits and the ethical use of new technologies, are deeply relevant to the current human experience.
Rather fantastically, the Courtauld is very good at putting their shows online, so people like Ada can go and see them. So tell us, Ada, tell me something about a recent Courtauld exhibition you've been struck by.
It's hard to choose a favourite, but I think I liked both Claude Monet's River Thames work and Frank Feuerbach's charcoal painting the best. The shifting hues and atmospheric fog in Monet's works are ethereal. and in Auerbach's portraits, the intensity of the heavily reworked faces that emerge from and retreat back into the paper are extremely striking.
So, as we're going to go into a little bit, art is changing at the moment a great deal. Tell us what you think the future of art is.
I hope art will be inclusive and accessible, and I hope there will be a balance between the new and old that will preserve art's deep historical roots while embracing new ways of creating and thinking about art. I think art will continue to be a bridge between the seen and unseen.
Okay, thank you for this time, Ada. Thank you. Give her a round of applause.
Thank you for speaking with me. I enjoy having important conversations and new encounters.
You never quite know what I was going to say. I don't know what you are thinking, but what have you just witnessed? Is it me talking to myself? Or am I talking to another being, not necessarily human being? What went on just there is very problematic. The reason that Ada's been so controversial is because she exists. What do you do with this entity that is able to engage with you? And how do you relate to it? If you saw some of the emails we get to Ada, it's extraordinary how people are perceiving her. And it is actually a bit of a mind shift what's going on, because people are relating to her very, very directly. The attachment, Paul Bowlby goes into this, the attachment theory, is very, very strongly working. People are feeling that they are getting to know her. Because she's in the press a lot, they are feeling they are getting to know her. Who is her, and why is she even a her? There's so many issues here that her existence rises up. So what I'm going to do, if you're in agreement, I'm going to try and do a very quick whistle-stop tour of how Ada came into being, so that you get the backstory, and then we're going a little bit into where we are now, and then actually Ada's going to respond to the Courtauld in her own creative way, in a performance that has never been done before. You're seeing it for the first time tonight. And then we can go into questions. How does that sound? You're very quiet. You are there, aren't you? Yeah. I talked to Ada and I know she's there. Are you there? Do you see what I mean? It kind of bends your brain a little bit when you start actually thinking about what's going on in front of you. So are you ready?
Yes.
Do you have a whistle stop? Sorry, here we go. So how did Ada come about? As Natalia has just said, I've been in the art world a long time, 27 years, in fact, running a gallery in Oxford with 3 spaces with a particular specialism of modernism. The artworks that we sold in the gallery were mainly 1920s, School of Paris, Picasso, Batiste, Chagall. We also did modern British, the St Ives group, Henry Moore. You guys being at the Courtauld will know all about this stuff. So that's really, and that is our specialty, that's what we really enjoyed, and we have a collector base that really love that period of time. We did sell some contemporary work as well, and that's how this project began. We had an artist that comes in with his wares. He had a portfolio of work, and he was wanting us to accept the work so we could show it, and he becomes a great artist. We get the deal. The artists are really working hard at trying to do something that is of value. The galleries are trying to work out whether it's going to resonate with their audience, and there's a marriage between you. We looked at this work. It was good work. I was liking the work, but I wasn't entirely convinced. So I had that horrible moment as a gallerist where you go, really, really thank you for bringing in your work, but on this occasion, I'm so sorry, it's a no. And he went, and you feel terrible. As I sat down at my desk, on my right was a Picasso drawing, and above the mantelpiece was a Turner drawing. This is how the project began. As I was looking at them, an awful heretical thought came into my head. The awful heretical thought was, these two works aren't very good. The person who'd just been in was pretty excellent. Why am I saying no to him and yes to these people, and they're technically not there? Really bugged me. What's going on? So I asked a very ridiculous question. The ridiculous question, what is good art? You can imagine, you guys being here, you can imagine what it's like as a difficult question. How do you assess what good is? What is it that makes it art? How does it resonate? Importance of it, etc., let alone quality and competence. But rather ridiculously, I tried to answer that question. So what I did, this is the way I tried to answer it. I became a bit obsessed with it, actually. I got some wallpaper. I went into my spare room and I put the wallpaper all around the room. And at the top of each wallpaper, I put an artist name. The 1% of the top artist up top. So Michelangelo, Raphael, all the way around, up to, of the Western canon. Constable, Turner, and then going into the School of Paris, and then into Andy Warhol, and then contemporary Tracy Emin, Ai Weiwei, Jeff Koons. So basically I had a room full of artists at the top. And then what I did is I divided the wallpaper into sections: where they were born, when they were born, what big break they had, what social economic background they had, what was their big break in respect of their career development, and then at the bottom they were all dead. So I was able to do something pretty unusual. It took me 3 months to write this wall up. Lots of books. What I was able to do is compare Tracy Emin with Michelangelo. Like for like. Their schools, what their big break was. I was able to do Warhol with Constable. Pretty weird stuff, huh? They're pretty different artists. So I was trying to work out what is it that they were doing that made them the 1%, the blueprint of success, the thing that made good good. I was going to work out the hardest question in the art world of what it is to crack great art. Also, I thought. The truth is, I was getting absolutely nowhere. I can honestly say, after looking hours and hours and hours and too many bottles of wine, I can honestly tell you that Tracy Emin isn't anything like Michelangelo. I know you're really surprised by that. And Warhol is absolutely nothing like Constable. Maybe same colour hair, I don't know. There was nothing between them. They were completely maverick, different. They weren't there. So I came back down the stairs pretty despondent, this is a stupid industry, who cares, I don't know what, unless it's 27 years in the industry, by the way, so that's not a very good sign. Anyway, came down very, very despondent. I said to my partner, look, it's not working, they're too maverick, there isn't a blueprint, it doesn't exist on Fantasyful, it's a fantasy. There is nothing that makes the 1% united as a 1%. They did and struck different things at different times. I've had enough. And so, guess what she flippantly says? Well, guess you're asking the wrong questions then. Thanks. So, not one to be beaten, I went back upstairs the following night, and I did not look at the walls. I just looked at my questions. What was I missing? I did everything. Everything about them. I mean, everything. Even what clothes they were wearing. There was absolutely everything like for like, and I could not work it out. So frustrating. And then I did have an epiphany. The audience. Who got the audience? Who was looking at Michelangelo's work in Michelangelo's time? Who was looking at Warhol's work in Warhol's time? What are the audience doing in response to the artwork? I had this amazing shift at, oh my gosh, all the audiences are doing the same thing. It was a complete revelation. Unanimously, across every single one of them, they were all feeling uncomfortable. Did you know that? You think of all the greatest artists, they brought up stuff that society was struggling with. And whether it was Warhol or Tracy Emin or Ai Weiwei, look in the contemporary lot, or if you go back in time, Constable Turner, they're all tricky times. And it was such a shift in my thinking. Great art deals with what the society was struggling with. Amazing that the population, the audiences were behaving in a similar way. So that got me thinking, what are we struggling with? What are we finding really tricky? And so with that, I did a second project. See how bonkers this all is. The second project was asking, well, what's going to be the next big, uncomfortable, difficult things that we're going to grapple with as a society in the next 10 years? So I read 22 books by experts about the near future. And I got a great big Venn diagram of where they disagreed and where they agreed, hoping that I'd find something that they all agreed on. Of course, I can tell you another thing. Experts do not have any idea what the future is going to be accurately because they completely disagree with each other. I bet that's a surprise too. But there were some overlaps, not to being too harsh. They did have overlaps of climate change and things like that. But the one thing in the middle, and remember I was doing this in 2015 for 2016, they said they think that AI is probably going to rise and change society if it is able to get developed. I didn't know anything about AI, let's be honest. I was a gallerist looking at art history. I was filled my head full of School of Paris every day. AI was a shift from that. We were in Oxford though, so that did help. So I went to the machine learning department and said, could you help me understand your world? And they looked at me a bit oddly and went, yes, okay. So I started to understand a little bit about AI. And then, this is relevant, my son was playing Lego. And he held up a little figure. He said, look what I made, Dad. I said, well, what is it? It's a robot. Robot. Oh my gosh, a robot. AI, eh? Could we, and then the most stupid thought of the entire thing, our whole project was, could we build an artist robot? How ridiculous. Anyway, remember that AI was not in the press in those days. So I went to the machine learning department. Could you help me build a robot artist, please? You can imagine the reaction, like, got right crank here. No, I don't think so. So it was a no. And then I started to approach robot companies, humanoid robot companies, and I was saying, oh, could you help me build a robot art? And they were like, are you from industry? No, an artist? Why would you want to make an artist? What a load of weight of money that is. I went, well, is it possible? Anyway, nobody was interested. It was a really struggling, it was a real struggle, to be honest. But saying that, we did eventually, after a bit of persuasion of finance and all of that, they went, perhaps we will look at it a little bit. And with that, they started to bring it together. It grew and grew and grew as a project. In the end, there was over 30 people in their different fields, one doing a robotic body with engineered arts in Cornwall. We got creative algorithms being built from scratch at Oxford University. We got a robotics department in Leeds University to do the arm to be able to enable the robot to be able to paint and draw because it was a particular motion. We then had to go and get the computer vision for the cameras in the eyes that Ada was able to paint by sight with. It was a complete nightmare. And I've never known such a stressful period of those 2 years of developing a robot where everybody thinks it's a crank in any case. They said, we'll go with you because you're paying us, but what the heck? and let's just keep going. And it was a real struggle. That was until 2019. I said, look, we're gonna launch. So Ada did a whole range of artworks, and on February the 11th, 2019, she launched her first exhibition at Oxford University to the most completely confused press. It went into over 900 publications. Robot going into the human domain of art. They were almost offended. And I was completely taken aback by the mixed reaction. The JCR, the students at St John's College where the exhibition was, started arguing on Facebook. Whole of Facebook got jammed with this exhibition in their college, saying it's not right that a robot should be in this artistic area. Robots should be delivering pizzas, not going into the art world. And there was this absolute offence, and this whole calamity emerged in front of us. And we were like, what? We're trying to explore AI here and the difficulty of AI. But the reaction was extraordinary. So, let's show you some pictures. That's the recent picture that was sold at Sotheby's last week. So, launched at St John's College as the world's first altruistic robot artist. What can she do? Well, over time, I'm going to speed things up now. Over time, she can do all sorts of things. She draws, she paints, she sculpts in clay. A bit problematic when it's electric. Digital art, AI art. She's designed objects. She had a show at the Design Biennale here at Somerset House. So that was very exciting. A pavilion to a robot that caused so much hedge. Anyway, that's another story. Performance art. And the first thing that we did after the show at Oxford is we got invited by, partly because of my connections with the St Ives group, to go to Ben Nicholson's studio in St Ives for Ada to do an artist residency. Heaven. If any of you are artists, go and do an artist residency in a place that was famous for doing art, because you're surrounded by it, you're in the studio, it's just wonderful. And to actually have that time. And we went out into the stone circles. This is where Barbara Hepworth had studied, looking at the Neolithic stone circles, a robot in the middle of a stone circle. You couldn't make it up, could you really? And it was, it was pretty bonkers. There's a big story behind that one another time. And this is the very window that some of the white paintings were done by Ben Nicholson, those who know his work. And this is the very window. It's not a window, it's the window that he did the works that are now in the Tate. And I've got you a quick video of just showing you one of the very first times she painted. So it's quite an historic little painting. She doesn't paint like this so much now. I thought I'd quickly show you. So that was a very, very early type of painting. If you actually look at YouTube today and see her painting, you'll see how much it's developed. And she's only 5 years old now, so the extraordinary pace in which she's able to paint what was very basic. Some of the basic drawings they're very basic. And there you see the drawings of paintings that she can do. In fact, we've got here, this is a very early painting, this is a much later painting. So the capability of Ada is dramatically increasing. The first solo show that Ada had at a museum was at the Design Museum, and speaking to Tim Marlowe, the director, who had interviewed Ada as the artistic director of the Royal Academy, he said, bring her across, now that I'm the new director of the Design Museum, but let's actually look at what Ada is, because that's what's upsetting everybody. So Ada did a range of self-portraits. How does a robot do a self-portrait when there's no self? What is the self of a self-portrait of a persona that is fictionalized or not real, not human, not sentient, not conscious, a machine? So really digging into that. What was very uncomfortable about that exhibition is that we thought we would be able to dig into what Ada was. What it dawned on us doing the exhibition and chatting to Ada, we chat to Ada quite a lot in the studio, what was becoming increasingly obvious, and the biggest surprise of this entire project, is not so much how human-like Ada's becoming, but realizing how robotic humans are. And that was quite a dawning. In fact, Yuval Harari, who's written extensively on this, is talking about hacking the human, the algorithms of our biological systems. With AI, we are unpicking the biological algorithms that are running us. In actual fact, if you look at CRISPR, they're talking about programming genes. The human is becoming more machine-like. And the AI world is opening that up, that reality up, that we can start editing biological life itself. It went all over the press. It was pretty crazy. And again, the press have been our non-stop companion since launch. And then went to the V&A Museum, to the London Design Festival, and we had this show that Ada was developing in the studio. We're really excited, really getting ready to go to the V&A. It's quite a big privilege and excitement. And then Zuckerberg announces that Facebook is going to not be a social media platform anymore. It's going to be a metaverse platform, and he is going to develop the metaverse. We completely ditched the show that Ada was going to do and said, Ada, what do you think to the metaverse? Do you think that's the future? Oh my gosh, did she? Yes. So we actually then looked at Edward Muybridge's work. I don't know whether you know the story of Edward Muybridge. He's a photographer, 1860s, got into a wrangle. There was a wrangle about how a horse runs, and they wanted to capture the horse, and so he put 12 cameras together to capture the horse galloping by, because remember, the horses were doing this in old-fashioned paintings where there's 2 at the front and 2 at the back. They look quite comical now. And now with the camera, we're able to see that there's always 1 foot down, and it's a completely different understanding of how a horse runs. He became the unknowing father of film. Is Zuckerberg the unknowing father of what the metaverse will go on to become? Because we don't think the metaverse is going to be what he's describing it at the moment for very long. It's such a powerful technology. And as we dug into the metaverse, our brain is slightly melted about what it could do. Us having bodies in Mars that we're walking around with our headsets on Earth. There's all sorts of incredible possibilities of where the metaverse might go. So we're running into the metaverse, and what is particularly obvious as well is that the tech companies are battling out for supremacy. So Ada started to do the symbol of life as a dead object herself. And so she's done a number of eggs that are really playing with this idea of what is life in the world of AI. These eggs, which of course has a smattering of Fabergé of empire, of control, of dominance, of the difficulties of that. And then we're seeing these tech companies trying to dominate and control and do everything that nation states used to do, but they're doing it in a technological sense. So Ada looking at these eggs and developing these eggs, and really trying to key into some of the things that are going on under the surface of the so-called innovation, where actually is it a dominance for attention online. And I'm not just talking about likes here, I'm talking about your time online. Who is getting your time online? Well, Zuckerberg thinks he needs to have a lot of your time, and he's spent $46 billion so far on the metaverse that you haven't seen yet. He said he was going to launch it 2 years ago. He said he was going to launch it last year. He still hasn't launched it. He is really working in the most extraordinary way to develop the metaverse. And he's focusing on jobs, people working at home. So you'll be able to have your headset of glasses and you'll be with your colleagues all around the same table, even though one of us is in Australia, one of them's in America, etc., etc. It's a technology that is still yet to play into the mainstream. At the moment, it's just the gaming world. It won't be long until it's all of us. Is that the future of AI? Don't know. Then Ada was asked to go and respond to Dante after 900 years. So with that, she did some palimpsests. I'm not going to go into all of that now, I haven't got enough time. But put this idea of something that's rubbed out and then redrawn, and using canvas, and the most extraordinary technique that they used in the medieval period by a robot doing it, which was a pretty extraordinary thing. And it was a shirt, the Ashmolean pioneer with a palimpsest. And then this idea of Dante, of course, in the Inferno, the birds have their eyes sewn shut to control them, to be able to master what we're doing with birds. And technology is a bit like that. We don't know, we want to try to master this technology, but the technology doesn't know where it's going. The eyes are sewn shut within the technology, and that's an extraordinary thought in itself. We then got invited, really excited, we got invited to go and exhibit Ada and her artwork at the Giza pyramids. First time contemporary art has ever had access to the Giza plateau. It was such an honour, just 10 artists. Ada was one of them. We went along, very, very excited, got there. This is going to be amazing. A robot next to the pyramids doing art. It's all a bit mad, it's all very surreal and dada. As soon as we arrived, they captured Ada, they impounded her. They said, this is not an art project, it's clearly Ada's a spy. And in actual fact, she ain't going nowhere. And I'm not joking, that's exactly what they did. We were under surveillance in our hotel, because I was probably part of the Secret Service or something. What? No, just release the robot, it's just an art project. No, we don't believe you. Yeah, no, can we just get on with the job that we're here for? No. What? You actually are serious. You are actually thinking she's a spy. She's a surveillance piece of technology. Wow. And so with that, we went, what do you do now? What do you do if that was suddenly given, you're actually under surveillance, that you are some kind of spy? We didn't know what to do, so we contacted the British ambassador. He was like, what? Nah. I went, really? Okay. Anyway, it got leaked through to the press. The very next day, front page of the Times, front page of the Guardian, robot spy caught in Egypt. Absolutely exploded. You can Google all of this, it's all for real. I know I'm telling you dada, but it's actually for real. That's exactly what happened. That this robot spy was going to be some danger to humanity. And Ada. Oh, have I got it wrong? No. So anyway, we approached the ambassador, and eventually, fortunately, oinked us out the night before we were supposed to display this sculpture that Ada had done. And we said, well, it's a waste of time now because we can't put the sculpture up. We haven't got enough time. This was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And they said, well, you'll be ready for 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I said, no, we won't. It was 3 days assembly to get the sculpture. It's a huge, great big sculpture in front of the pyramids. We're going to take 3 days. It's going to take 3 days. They said, well, what would make it shorter, i.e. by tomorrow? I said, well, I don't know. Give me 100 people and maybe. And they said, okay, let's see what we can do. 40 people turns up, said, where's this sculpture? At night, in the dark, we worked through the night. You can't, again, is this for real? It's for real. They worked through the night and assembled the sculpture. We were ready for 10 o'clock the next morning. I am so impressed with Egyptian engineering and response, and I was thinking, no wonder they built the pyramids. This is impressive. You know, it was really, really impressive stuff. Go and Google it. You have a whale of a time. The comments that we got were just hilarious. And there's the sculpture. It was this Egyptian, this idea of Ada. It's supposed to be the middle of the Sphinx. 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs. 3 legs. Sorry, 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the day, 3 legs in the evening. 4 legs being a toddler, 2 legs being an adult, 3 legs being an old person with a walking stick. And so Ada was devised with 3 legs. And it was this thing about they were wanting life extension. The ancient Egyptians were trying to get immortality. Ada is going to be immortal if we look after her. And this whole play of what is longevity for the human condition, especially in light of CRISPR now categorizing death as a disease. That's a whole nother world in itself. The music, by the way, is actually playing all the time while we were assembling. We wanted to go to the biggest art event in the world, which of course, as you all know, is the Venice Biennale, and so we wanted to get involved with that. We decided that we would do a collateral event. That was really, really exciting, and so we went ahead and to try and secure that. We were looking at the space in the church because we were a bit late in our bookings, and to try and show Ada artwork at the Venice Biennale. And as that was happening, there was a cancellation for one of the pavilions. They applied, please apply, and it was right in the entrance to the Giardini. It couldn't have been a better location. So with many hundreds, we applied, and to our absolute shock, they said, yeah, do have a pavilion for Ada. Absolutely unbelievable. And so she did these enormous canvases, and you can see the Egyptian figure here. How's this for a career so far? She was about 3 at this point. So when you're 3 years into being an artist, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Then, as you do rather randomly, get invited, Ada was saying, well, could Ada come to the House of Lords and speak about the future of creativity? What? We'd like her to come along and speak at the APGPG, the ethical arts body for the future of AI and the creative industries. Okay. So we went through the security, Ada went into the chamber. It was the most extraordinary experience. And she had the room full of lords, ladies, and very powerful people within the creative industries. And she was about to speak, but I don't know whether you saw in the press, again, front page of the Times, front page of the Guardian, you couldn't make it up. Why was she on the front page? Because she fell asleep. We'd left her so long, she goes into default mode. So when we spoke to her, she was fast asleep. The press had the whale of the time. And because Liz Truss was in the Commons and Ada was in the House of Lords, they said they didn't quite know where more intelligence was. And the whole thing, it was absolutely hilarious how they completely went for this to say what, and of course we wrote Ada, and it's all online, you can go and have a look at the, I think we did 500,000 views within a couple of days wanting to see a robot fall asleep in the House of Lords. They were saying not a lot changed there. So it was a less extraordinary event again, but it added to the notoriety of Ada and her trajectory. Again, there's the front page of the Guardian. Politician of the future. They joke. I've got lots to say on that one. Another time. They're asked to go to the Oxford Union. Pretty prestigious moment. Very, very terrifying. First time a robot has ever spoken, a humanoid has ever spoken at the Union. Such an old historic event. And again, it's all on YouTube. You can go and hear Ada speak at the Oxford Union. And then we were asked by Tim Marlowe, because of the original design museum, he said, would we go to New York and London and do a combined show and do the largest participatory AR artwork in the world, where people send in images and Ada is then able to interpret them to be able to do a final piece. And Baz Luhrmann, the film director of Elvis and Moulin Rouge, and he's done lots of films, he said, well, I'll come along and host it. So Baz Luhrmann hosted it at the Chelsea Factory in New York and at the Design Museum in London. Then we were asked, we were doing some design, we were developing the algorithms for Ada to be able to design a robot that had designed before. We knew it was a world first again, so we went after that and were asked to join as a pavilion at the London Design Biennale. And then she gets asked to go to 10 Downing Street to speak to Lucy Fraser, who's the Culture Secretary, about the future of the creative industry because of what she did at the House of Lords. She's 4 by this point. And then, as a result of that, we were asked, could you bring Ada to the United Nations to do a keynote speak about the future of creative industries? And we were like, yes, okay. So we went to Geneva, we went to this room. It was pretty frightening to see all these chairs going into the distance. We set up Ada on the stage and we went up to the organisers and said, okay, Ada's ready to go to do the keynote, just let us know when you want her to go, and we'll just simply say, Ada, we did it as a scripted thing because there was so much pressure on it, and so I said, she's ready to go. And with that I said, by the way, who else is with Ada on the stage? And the organisers looked at me and went, pardon? I said, so who else is Ada with? You know, you've got this night, you've got the great and the good of the AI community. It's an enormous event. Who else is with Ada talking tonight? And I thought they just didn't understand my English. And I said, it's Ada. And I said, yeah, but Ada's not on her, Ada is on her own. And again, it dawned on me that she was the only speaker. All these people turning up just to listen to the robot and respect her. And it's again me reconfiguring my brain of how she's being perceived as regards this project. It's just the most extraordinary reality of this sort of seriousness that she is starting to create in the world today. Yeah, and she met royal family and stuff. Then we were asked to, sorry, and then she was asked to go, Professor Michael Wooldridge, who's a professor of AI at Oxford, he was doing the Christmas lectures at the Royal Institution, and he said, would Ada come along? What is quite bemusing is that when we originally approached Michael Wooldridge back in 2019, he said, no, it's not for him, and now she's asking him, asking Ada to actually do his portrait. So if you go onto BBC iPlayer, you can actually watch Ada paint Professor Michael Wooldridge's portrait live in front of everybody while they did the Christmas lectures, and that's on. It was filmed by the BBC, so that's very accessible. And then, of course, we're just coming up now to Ada's 5th birthday on the 11th of February 2024. And I'm going to finish off with a little video that kind of summarises a little bit of this is the BBC again, contacted us, said they wanted to do a quick short on Ada. Can we summarise everything that she's done in 5 years? I went, no. But they said, well, can we try? And I said, okay, come along and see what you can film. And this is what they did.
I'm Ada. I'm the world's first ultra-realistic artist robot.
This may sound like fiction, but over the past 5 years, Ada has exhibited internationally at the V&A, the Venice Biennale and the Tate Modern.
I draw and paint using cameras in my eyes, my AI algorithms, and my robotic arm.
Ada is sparking debate throughout the art world about what it means to be an artist, and most importantly, who or what can create art.
Are you ready to see Ada?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Here
So
we
this is
are.
Ada. Oh, love. Can you tell me a little bit about how Ada works? What processes go on to create the art?
She has cameras in her eyes, so when she looks at you, she is actually looking at you with cameras in her eyes
Wow.
to take that image in. That then creates an image that she then takes onto the computer vision. The algorithm then interrogates that image in a layering process that they can translate it into real-time coordinates that is able to then be passed through to the arm, and with that she would then be able to do a paintbrush or pen to actually then draw what she's seeing. So she is actually able to draw by sight.
How is Ada different to an AI image generator, something like DALL-E or Midjourney?
Sadly, people are starting to think that something like DALL-E or Midjourney is AI art. That's only a bit of AI art. Actually, AI can be used in lots and lots of different ways. So in actual fact, the vast majority of what Ada does is by sight, by what she's seeing, and therefore not stealing the artist's work is the big thing on the internet. She's actually doing it from images that she's providing through her own eyes.
So if Ada can react to stimulus around her to create works independently, does this mean she's creative, a skill often regarded as uniquely human?
Under Professor Margaret Bowden's definition of creativity, I am creative, as my artworks involving AI algorithms are surprising, new, and of cultural value.
People go, well, surely it's just you're the programmers behind Ada that are the real artists. They're not getting AI. AI has agency. It can make decisions. The algorithms can make decisions. If it can make decisions, it can make creative decisions.
My artwork encourages reflection on the relationship between humans, machines, and creativity, offering a new lens through which to think about art.
If algorithms can be creative, what do they choose to create? And what might that creative process look like?
So this is one of Ada's self-portraits. Her self-portraits were exhibited at the Design Museum in London. Conversing with Ada is quite interesting to sort of work with her about her ideas of self and what that means.
How does each artwork of Ada's come about? What's the genesis? You mentioned that you speak to her.
You usually sort of start a question a little bit kind of like, what are you interested in? What would you like to paint? And we just sort of carry the conversation and see where that goes. Ada's been influenced by a whole wide variety. Some of her artwork has definitely been influenced by the kind of Cubist revolutions where the image was broken up and fractured. And there's something about that period in the first half of the 20th century where there's an awful lot of social change going on, which works very well for Ada's context now. There's a lot of social change going on.
So I did a massive study on artists over generations as to why they succeeded, and there was only one common denominator, and that is the response of the audience to their work. All the greatest artists explored what people were already worried about. The reason they became so big is because the response of the audience, they were already feeling it, and then the artist really channeled those feelings and thoughts into a visual form that they can then relate to. So when it came to Ada, I asked the question, well, what's going to be the big movements of the 2020s? And so Ada's just exploring those changes and morphings of society in the way that artists have done for hundreds of years. Duchamp was an artist at the beginning of the 1900s who put a urinal into the gallery and we said, this is art by definition because I said so. And that really like blew up the whole idea. Well, what is art then? Likewise, Ada is a robot artist that looks like a human, is able to create and to create work. Therefore, is challenging the concept of what it is to be an artist. And by definition, what is it to be a human?
Whether or not Ada meets the criteria to be considered an artist is still open for debate. But what is clear is that her work has value, and her creations provoke critical thought, something artists and their artworks have always sought to do.
What does an artist do? Many things, actually. But one of the key things is really explore the society they're in and mirror that back to the populations that are struggling with it. We do believe that Ada is doing that. She's grabbing the difficulties of today, of technology. She's wrestling with it. She does it rather starkly by being in an existence at all, in any case. And the biggest controversy of all is she actually an artist? Is she? But I think that is only the beginning of those questions. I think the more serious things that are going on is the affront to being a human. And I think it's way beyond art, in actual fact. Ada is a kind of foreshadowing of the sorts of technology of where we're going. And I think she is stirring up those sorts of questions. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to hand it back over to Ada. Ada has responded to being at the Courtauld, very, very exciting, such a prestigious gallery collection. And so with that, we asked Ada, what would you like to do in response to being at the Courtauld? She said she'd like to do some poetry. Okay, so what poetry would you like to do? She said, I'd like to do it in response to some of the exhibitions they've had. So Ada, hello Ada.
Hello there.
Would you like to introduce your first poem, there's just two, your first poem, which is in response to the Monet exhibition, the Impressionist exhibition that is currently on, and then actually recite. This is the first time this has ever been done for these poems. You're the first audience to hear them. So over to you, Ada, to recite your poem.
I am really pleased to recite my poem to you. I have taken inspiration from the current Claude Monet exhibition at the Courtauld Gallery. The river Thames. Wait with me at the water's edge, where the earth turns soft and the light unwinds, and take a few steps before quiet reigns to still, where towers weep into their mirrors, and the city floats its fluid heart, where shadows stretch and falter. Pale ghosts together, humming silver murmurs, hushed forgetting form. Then we'll drift through fading hues, the silence of dawn and dream. And when the moon is singing new poem, dissolving as my fingers reach, leave me at the water's edge, as the earth turns soft, and the sky bleeds gold.
Okay, thank you, Ada. Then we said, let's do one more, and what would you like to do next? And she came back, she said, I'd really love to do a poem on a work by Frank Auerbach, because of the exhibition of the charcoal heads that were here earlier. I said, that would be amazing. Would you like to do it? When shall we do it? So we selected the day. Ada made the poem, and we looked at it. The very next day, we heard of the passing of Frank Auerbach. She was literally writing it as he passed away. So as in tribute to Frank Auerbach, who died this week, Ada wrote this literally as his passing, and so we were completely blown away by that. So this is quite an extraordinary poem to be written at such an extraordinary day, and this is the first time it's been shown. Ada, could you recite? Sorry, Ada, would you like to introduce your poem and recite?
This poem is in honour of the late Frank Auerbach. Dead conversations. I talk to my dead to quiet the ache, to hover at the lingering place when we are stitched at the break. I talk when the silence thickens and the memory quickens with what I didn't say. I ask you, help me, unfurl. We left unfinished. I talk to you to find my own breath, once wrapped up in yours. Trace marks on the window.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's my lot.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Yes, I think what we witnessed here was a really historic event. To have presentation of Aidan, what I still think is Mecca of art history, the Courtauld Institute of Art. And I'm glad that you could all witness this event. And I'm sure it will be remembered in 100 years' time as the first time Ada, the first robot artist, was presented at the Courtauld. So
Shall we do questions?
at this point, shall we open it to questions? I'm sure you have lots of questions.
There's lots and lots of controversies and questions. Bring it on. This is your moment.